This is the 5th video in a series about what to ask your farmer, trying to find the highest quality produce. And the other videos were all about animals, from beef, chicken to pigs. I should make one about dairy, actually. Haven't done that yet. But these videos are going to be a lot more my expertise, because I am a vegetable farmer, fruit and vegetable farmer, more so what we think of as vegetables. So the other ones I feel qualified to talk about because I've just done so much research. I've gone through that process of trying to figure out what to look for when I'm visiting farms. But these ones I've actually done the growing. So this video is going to be about vegetables. The next one about fruits. And when I say vegetables in this context, I just mean annual garden crops. I'm including things like tomatoes, peppers, and cucumbers in this. And the fruit video will be more about berries and fruit trees. Kind of the conventional fruit-vegetable dichotomy, not the scientific one. So, annual garden vegetables, what should you look for? Let's get into it. The quality, the nutrient levels in your plants is going to have everything to do with what's in the soil. There's a couple other inputs and things that we're going to cover that are extremely important, but really the base quality is going to be what's in the soil. So what should you be looking for? You should be looking for quality soil. And when they're using quality soil, they're not going to need to be fertilizing with any kind of artificial fertilizers. So if they're not using artificial fertilizers, that's a good start. You know, the soil is probably pretty high quality, at least in a lot of ways. However, what do you want in soil? You want lots of macronutrients, lots of micronutrients. So something like manure from an animal, that's going to be really good. It's going to give that soil a bunch of nutrients, and the plants are going to grow well and be nutritious. However, you got to be asking whatever they're doing to make the soil good. And I'm not going to go over every example. I'm going to go over this example, maybe another, and then you can apply the principles. Let's take the example of manure. Okay, manure is giving the soil nutrients, allowing us to grow high quality plants. Wonderful. So next question would be, where's the manure from? And maybe now you want to go watch my other videos about animals to understand what makes a quality source of manure for animals. But in this context, I'd say, yeah, go watch those videos if you want to understand what makes a good manure. But that's pretty much it. It's like, what makes the soil good? What are they using to make the soil good? Hopefully it's a natural source, number one, and then hopefully that natural source is grown well and naturally. So you want to be looking at the soil, what goes into it, and ideally they want to have some system in place that is improving the soil every year. So or every couple of years. You want them to be doing things like cover cropping. So ask them, are you using a bunch of compost? Are you cover cropping? Whatever it may be, just make sure that they're taking efforts towards the long-term health of the soil, instead of doing things like tillage or low-quality fertilizers that just grow one good source of crops. So that's what you want to look for in the soil. Next, you want to look at the water. Where's the water coming from? If it's well water, if it's city water, whatever it is, and how polluted is that water? Because of whatever pollutants are in the water are going to accumulate in the plants. So look at the soil, look at the water, and really that should be it. But the problem is that when they don't have a good ecosystem, the pest population isn't in balance naturally, and so they need to use pesticides. If they don't have a good fertility system, like what we talked about, they're going to need to use artificial fertilizers. So, number one, as far as chemical inputs, you want to be getting plants that are grown with no artificial chemical inputs. However, what would really be ideal, and this is what I did on my farm, is not using any kind of fertilizer, pesticide, rodenticide, fungicide, herbicide. whether it's natural or not. Because when they're using that kind of chemical input, even if it's a natural chemical, the reason they're having to do that is because it's an incomplete ecosystem. So they have to make up for the fact that it's an incomplete ecosystem with that input. And in order to grow the healthiest crops, you want them to be in a complete ecosystem. For nutrient profiles, for all those reasons, for environmental health. So that should give you a good summary of this topic. What to ask your vegetable farmer. Always ask, one of the first things I ask is, what kind of chemicals do you use? Whether they're natural or not. What kind of, maybe you don't want to use the word chemicals because some of the natural ones aren't chemicals per se, but what kind of herbicides, things to clear up plants, fungicides, rodenticides, pesticides, and then finally artificial fertilizers. What kind do they use? And even if they're using natural fertilizers, what kind? So say, what do you use for fertility? What do you use for pest management? And look at all these inputs and trace them all the way back. They say they're using compost. That's great. That really means nothing. What's the compost made out of? What is the compost? Trace it all the way back. It's made from cow manure. Okay, how are the cows raised? What do they eat? All this stuff. And I really wish people would really trace it back, because when I was farming, I was doing everything to the absolute highest standard. All these inputs are traced all the way back to be completely pure. And so it's easy to get lost in like these labels. Like, oh, they don't use pesticides or they use compost. Basically, you want to look at all the inputs and you want to trace them all the way back.